Hey everyone. Wait for some people to get on here. All right. How's it going, guys? And wait, there's Brooke. We got
Hey,
it.
Carlie.
How are you?
Good. How about you? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. You
All
hiding in your
right.
car?
Yes. I'm hiding in my car. It was quieter here.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, mom life.
Yep. Super fun.
All right. So, for those of you who are just joining us, we're going to do a little chat today on kind of like motivation and finding time to write. Brooke, she's a full-time working mom, and so that's obviously can be difficult. So, we're just going to kind of give you guys, I don't know, just kind of open up about our lives and what we do to help us to find time to write. And if you have any
Mhm.
questions, even if it's off topic, whatever, just leave them in the comments and we will get to them. Namaste from India. Hello. All right. Okay, we will get started here.
Hello.
So, let's see. Okay, so Brooke, I know we've kind of talked about this and it blew me away. I mean, you said it just the other day about how that moment you had a realization when you had to work full time and be a mom, and you worried that your dream about being an author was going to be ruined and crushed. So, can you kind of tell us a little bit about that? Like how was that and how hard was that for you? How do you juggle being a mom and working full time?
Uh, so this is actually probably the question that I get asked the most, and it always shocks me that this is what people want to know so much about. But I started writing probably 8 years or so ago, and at the time my husband was in school and I was working as a software engineer. So I just asked somebody just asked that question, what do I do? So I was working as a software engineer at the time, and um, I was starting to do pretty well with that, but I knew I wanted to write. I had started writing. I think at the time I think I'd rewritten my book probably 4 times or so. And I was going to 3 different writing groups. One was in person, 2 were online. I was just obsessively writing at night when I got home from work and whenever I didn't have to take my dogs out. And I just knew that every time I went to these writing groups, I just knew I was so passionate about it, and I got more and more excited about it. And my sister came to me and told me that she wanted to start having kids, and that if I wanted to have kids the same age as her kids, then I needed to consider having kids too. And I was like, oh crap, I don't want to have kids yet. Um, but I thought about it, and my husband and I discussed it, and so I'm married to an entrepreneur. He is not happy working for other people, and I realized that, and I realized it wasn't very fair of me to expect him to support me in what I wanted to do, and for me not to support him in what he wanted to do. So he graduated with his master's degree and decided he didn't want to use it. And so I realized that if I wanted to have kids and I wanted to keep my house that we had just bought, then I would need to keep working. And if I wanted to keep writing, then I have to keep writing too, and I'd have to juggle all these things. And I that really stressed me out. And I was really worried that after all of this hard work that I put into my writing, that that I wouldn't be able to continue writing anymore. That I would have to it would just be overwhelming. So I'm not gonna lie, I went upstairs and like huddled in a corner and cried. And I don't cry very often. So when my husband found me upstairs crying, I think it freaked him out. And I think he realized then that for the first time that it was that important to me. And I think it probably hit me too for the first time. But I was able to continue doing it, and as you can see, I'm still writing 8 years later. So it's hard, and it's certainly easy. Like I'm here camped out in my car, so you can't hear my kids crying in the background. But it is doable. You just have to figure out ways um to I don't know, the hardest thing like doing videos like this is really difficult during the day because I have my kids during the day and my husband's working. But so when I was working full time, right now I'm on my maternity leave because I just had a baby, and I actually found it easier when I was working because I had my lunch breaks, and on my lunch breaks I could find like a quiet corner and record videos or work on some stuff. And now I don't really have that, so I've always done a lot of my writing and a lot of my content creation at night after work and then after my kids go to bed. But when I do videos, I have to find a quiet corner. Typically it's easier when you have like a 3-story house and you can go upstairs and leave your kids in the basement and turn the show on for them. But right now, like, we're living in a little condo where we don't have that. So right now I go to my sister's house or I go to my mom's house. I find a quiet corner and record videos. So it's hard, but it's doable. And the longer you do it, the better, like the easier it becomes and the better you get at it. But it's not an easy road at all, and you have to be really passionate about it to keep going.
I think that's so true for writing. It's like I think in writing there's so much rejection and so much like it's not a fast moving thing. Like a lot of people tell you, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon when you first start. And like I don't think I really grasped that concept until here I am 5 years later and I'm not published yet. And so I'm like, oh yeah, it really is a marathon. And so I think like being passionate and like in keeping that drive is like so important because you're going to face a lot of rejection. You're going to face a lot of like life stuff too to get in the way as far as being a mom or being a dad or working full time, all sorts
and
of
I saw
things.
somebody just ask how is Brookstagram helping you? Honestly, the books, like the writing community is so important because surrounding yourself with people that are as passionate as you are really helps feed your own drive. If you don't have people around you that are as passionate as you are, it's really easy to like get discouraged and think, well, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe this is unrealistic. This is a dream that's like out of my reach. But honestly, I think it's possible, and if you love it enough, you'll keep going, and you'll be successful at it eventually. You just have to keep moving forward, and you have to keep learning and improving.
Yeah. And I feel like Bookstagram has helped me in just a sense of like the community. Like writing is such a solitude. I mean, it's such a lonely pursuit. And so for the first few years, I wasn't on social media. I just wrote alone. I didn't even have any writing friends. And it definitely, like, I didn't realize how lonely it was until I joined the social media and like got on Bookstagram and made writer friends. And I'm like, oh, it's way better. It's way easier. It's like, you can't get better at writing by yourself. You have to have some help. So it helps to have just some writing friends for sure. So that's been the biggest thing that I found that's helped me with Bookstagram is just the community.
Yeah. Have you ever struggled
Brooke,
with motivation, Karlie?
I have.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to ask you, I wanted to know what your favorite genre was to read.
My favorite genre is fantasy. I read I honestly can read just about anything and enjoy it. But my favorite genre is probably fantasy. I love thrillers. I love sci-fi. I love a lot of different things. I'll read just about anything, but yeah, fantasy, especially YA fantasy, is probably my favorite. What about yours, Karlie?
Same, yeah, YA fantasy. If you want to even go deeper into that dark gothic fantasy, I like the darker undertones and darker themes. So anything like that, it's definitely up my alley. I love horror as well. But yeah, I feel like I always I like to have some kind of magical element. It doesn't have to be like heavy fantasy, but just some kind of like magical element to it for sure. And then apart from writing, what are your guys' other hobbies? I like to draw and paint. That's like my other creative outlet. But other than that, like, I mean, obviously reading, if you count that as a hobby, I do. And then like camping and riding my bike, if you count those. But
Karlie does a lot of camping.
yeah, I do. And so I definitely, I like that wilderness. So, and I got a metal detector. That's my new hobbies. I'm going to be a treasure hunter this summer. So I got a metal detector to go hunt or to go camping. So I'm going to go hunting for treasure.
That sounds awesome, honestly. Let's see, my hobbies. I do a lot of photography. I used to be a lot more into it, but I had to, I got busy enough with my writing that I had to decide if I wanted to continue doing photography or not, and I dropped it because I didn't have time for it anymore. But I loved photography. I do a lot of hiking. I love books. so like wake surfing, wakeboarding. Um, those are probably I would say my biggest hobbies. Or anything else? Oh, I love trampolines. Random fact. I have broken several bones on trampolines. I've actually broken 11 bones, but
I haven't broken any. Well, I fractured my elbow, but that's it.
yeah, I've broken it. I've broken a few, and a few of them have been on a trampoline. But I love trampolines, and I had one at my last house that I just loved, and my husband laughed at me because every time it snowed, I would go out and shovel it. I didn't want it to get ruined. But yeah, I love trampolines.
Hmm. Awesome. Okay, well, so as far as with motivation with me, so what I do for work is my husband's an entrepreneur. He owns a company called 8080. And so in the beginning, like I helped him out with that. I was essentially like his assistant and helped with customer service. And I did that for kind of when it was starting up and getting going. And then after it was kind of like on its own legs, he knew that like that was always his dream to be an entrepreneur and own his own business, where mine was always to be an author. And so he then kind of like was like, all right, now you can go chase your dream. So I still help him out with 80/80 stuff and business stuff, but I'm able to kind of write full time, which is such a blessing. And I'm so grateful for that. But even like with that, like having the time, like I don't usually have to struggle to find the time to write. I always carve out time every single day. It's very much a habit for me. And if I don't write, I get really
Mm-hmm.
grumpy. So it doesn't like, I don't struggle with that. I know I did in the beginning, like having to like sit down every day and make it a habit. Like before you write that first book, you feel like writing a full length novel is impossible. Like writing 80 to 100,000 words is just, you can't even imagine doing it. Once you do it once, you're like, oh, this is cake. I can keep doing it. But
Mm-hmm.
so I don't have to like find the time necessarily to write, but what I struggled with is I thought because I could do it full time and I could like get really crazy obsessive about it and just pour every single ounce of my time into it, that it would happen a lot faster. And so everyone's like, oh, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And I'm like, yeah, but I can do this full time. I could do 10 hours a day on it. Like I can do this. I thought for sure, I started like really seriously when I was like 25, 26. And I thought for sure by the time I was 30, and here I am, and it hasn't happened yet. But I know like from where I started, like my writing's gotten mountains and mountains and mountains better. Like it's come such a long way, and my storytelling like capability and my understanding of like character development. So I know I'm on the right path, but like I thought, yeah, I'm like, oh, if I do this full time, I can just really knock this out and make it happen real quick. But that's not the case. It's different for every single author. Like the writing journey is so different from every single person. I mean, you might be able to do it in a year. That would be crazy. Tell me how you do it, how you did it. But for the most part, it really does take some time. So my biggest thing for finding motivation was not getting down on myself, because when you're beating yourself up and your writing isn't to where you want it, and you keep getting, I mean, criticism from like your beta readers or your critique partners, and you're like, but I thought I fixed everything, I thought it was going to be perfect, and then one more thing happens, right? They're like, well, this still
Mm-hmm.
fixed. Like being patient with that, like it's really important to not get frustrated and to just take it as it is, and just keep in realizing that there's always going to be rewrites, there's always going to be revising. And so yeah, it's not getting down on yourself and not giving up. Just keep showing up every day, keep writing every day, even when you feel like you want to give up.
Have you ever felt like you wanted to give up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, back in November was probably one of my lowest points, and I pretty much took the whole month of November off. I needed, like, I was having a mental breakdown, and so I really needed to give myself like a space for my book. It was like kind of getting unhealthy obsessive, I would say. And so I needed, like, and I knew that, like, I knew I needed to give myself a break. Like I was way too obsessed with it. And so then I took a step back, and then kind of came back in December, and I've come back and balanced it more. You know, I definitely took it really, really far to the one end where it got unhealthy. But I think like I definitely back in November, and then there's been more times too. Like I thought for sure that my book was so ready. I was going to start querying agents that summer, and I had a professor who, she was kind enough to take a look at my first beginning chapters, and she was my creative writing professor up at the U, and I mean, luckily she told me like, it's not ready. There is potential here, but it's not ready. You need to like kind of stop and kind of reevaluate your story and reevaluate your like storytelling. Like there's not any voice on the page, the character, like I don't understand the character's motivation or whatever. So, and that was just like a year ago. So that was like, I'd been writing for 4 years. I thought for sure. And I was like so convinced I was ready. And so to hear that, like that rejection again, it's like, I wanted to give up then as well. But,
Yeah.
you don't wake up the next day and like, you can't. So that's when you know you're a writer.
Yeah. Writing is hard. It's hard, but if you love it, you do it anyway,
Mm-hmm.
for
Yep.
sure. Oh,
Has anyone struggled? Oh,
somebody asked
sorry.
if we've been to any countries in Asia.
Oh, I would love to though. I would
I've
absolutely
been to
love
Thailand and I've been to the Beijing airport.
airport travels. I would love
Uh-huh.
definitely on the list.
Yeah, I think that was I was pretty grumpy. It was at 2 in the morning and my husband lost his passport. Good memories around that.
Oh, that's awful. In Beijing, he lost it.
Yeah, he lost it in Beijing and we were late for our flight because our connecting flight, we were flying to Thailand and
Mm.
we almost missed our flight.
Mm.
And I couldn't read any of the signs because I only know English. Not very well. Just kidding. But
Your Reed says, "Do you think exercise, yoga, and meditation helps the writing?" Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. I am huge into meditation. I started 3 years ago, and like I do it every single day. It's such a habit now. Like prayer, meditation, and like reflection. Yoga, I need to get more and more into. I'm not the greatest with exercise, but yoga is definitely something I want to get more into it. But yeah, meditation, I'm so into meditation. So I meditate every time, like before I write, I light my candle, I set my intentions. I like have a moment to just clear my mind and like let it all just sit there for a minute. And like I try to like think of it as like letting my Karlie brain shut off and let my character kind of like come in. So I give room for my characters to come in and like shut my brain off so that I can actually hear my characters, what they're saying and what they, because they have a mind of their own, right? So
yeah,
I hear them.
I love yoga. I do yoga as often as I can. I do CrossFit for exercise, but uh, I've never been into breathing exercises or meditation, and I actually started having upper back problems because I spend so much time at my computer. And I went to a physical therapist, and he told me when I walked in, he was like, "Have you tried breathing exercises?" I was like, "No." So yeah, my physical therapy routine is breathing exercises, and that's actually helped a lot. So I would recommend it for
Yeah,
those of you who haven't tried it.
absolutely. Huge into that.
Does anyone else have any questions for us?
Or any stories you want to share? Have you guys struggled at all with finding motivation or wanting to quit writing? Nope, no one feels brave enough. Introvert, extrovert. Suits you. Ooh, I used to definitely be an extrovert, but I would say in the past like few years, like really when I started writing, I definitely have become more introverted. Absolutely. I have a hard time wanting to leave my writing room, and so I've had to force myself and balance that out. So I've become more introverted as I've gotten older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say I'm a natural introvert. Like I'm not. I've had to over the years be better at talking to people and like putting myself out there, but I wouldn't say it's natural for me at all. I spent most of my high school shut in a bedroom reading books. So I don't I remember my brother left for 2 years, and when he got back, he was like, "Oh, you're a completely different person than you used to be." Because while he was gone, I started to try and like you know uh, do more social events and reach out more, and uh, it's definitely something that I have to work on. Being on video and on camera is not my favorite thing at all, but it's something that I want to be better at, and so I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone to do that more, and I think it's been good for me.
Mm, good for you. Let's see. I have felt hopeless lately as my story that I thought was coming together keeps stalling. I was just writing you back in the comments, but I guess I can address it right now. I know we've talked about this in my DMs too. Um, I'm right there with you. That's why I'm like, I'm right there. I'm having to do some rewrites right now, bigger rewrites than I wanted to. It's like not even revising anymore at this point. It's like I'm gonna have to rewrite the whole last half of my book. And so it's like, again, it's one more thing you have to fix. So I get the hopelessness. I'm right there with you. I feel it. But I know that I've read some of your writing, and so I know you're a good writer. So I know you got to keep pushing through. Which country do you both live in? We both live in Utah in the US.
Yes, we do. Mm-hmm. I don't
Which
know if
is,
you know where Utah is, but it's closer to California than it is to New York.
no. Oh, cat keeps happening to me too. Yeah. The revising and rewrites. If you guys are new to, like, if anyone's here just starting out writing, you'll soon find out that revising and rewrites, it just comes along with it. It's really hard to avoid. You can be biggest plotter in the world, but you're still gonna have to do
I will
rewrites.
say that when you do a lot of plotting and outlining, it definitely cuts down on the amount of revisions that you have to do. But yeah, I think you still do a lot of revising. I'm rewriting a book that I wrote a few years ago right now. So, and hopefully this will be the last revision.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
You almost don't want to say that because you jinx it.
Yeah. Well, you read the first chapter the other day, so you tell me.
Yes.
Will this be the last revision?
I love it. Yes. Yes, you got it. You've got it. It's ready. Andy, so what is something you didn't expect to be difficult while writing a book? Well, Andy, funny you should ask. Everything, I would say. I thought I honestly thought that the first book I wrote was going to be like amazing and it was going to fall off the shelves. I had a big ego, I guess, when I first started writing. And so that first time, okay, if you haven't done it yet, if you haven't had somebody read your writing and give you some real feedback, it's that first time it's rough because usually you'll get a few good compliments, but a lot of it's going to be, this needs to be fixed. And so I think that crushing, that dagger to the heart that first time when my cousin and mom read my book and they're like, no, it's not ready. Like you need some work. So that's been really difficult. And then also, I would say for me, the most difficult part about writing is character development. That's what I've struggled with the most, character development and voice. So those are personal things, though. Every author struggles with something different.
Yeah, I would say like voice and character development is difficult. Getting your internal dialogue to line up and like make sure all your thought processes make sense and that your character like is likable but not too perfect, and that they don't sound whiny, stuff like that. Making sure that you're hitting your target audience well. I think the hardest part for me is figuring out when it's ready.
Yeah. Yeah,
because some people might tell you it's ready, and another person will be like, yeah, this still needs a lot of work, or and then to look at that and say, okay, is this person somebody that I should listen to? Because not everyone is your target audience and not everyone is going to like your work, and that's okay, but you do want it to hit, like you do want the right people to like it. The people that you're targeting should like your book. Yeah. And should feel like it's ready, but it's hard to know who to ask, or like if you feel like it's ready, but or sometimes you'll feel like it's ready and then somebody will give you feedback and you'll be like, oh no, it's so far from ready, and then you'll get depressed about it, and it's just hard to know. It's hard to know when it's ready.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. So, Brooke, you kind of talked a little bit already, like how difficult it is to manage writing and children.
Yes. I would say the writing part for me isn't as difficult, just because I can do it at night when it's quiet and dark, and that's when I've always written anyway. But like now that I've been trying to do content creation to build my author platform, I need a lot of daytime for like light, and that is easy. That's a lot more difficult for me to find during the day. So occasionally I can get my husband to like watch the kids while I do stuff. But then there's times like right now where I decided to take my kids to St. George and go hiking because it's nice outside. But I abandoned my husband back at home And so then there are times like that where like, okay, that I lean on my family members a lot. Or I pull out the tablet and let my son watch a movie like what he's doing right now. Last night, I jumped on a writing critique group, and I jumped on a call with you, Karlie, after that. And my baby did not want to take a nap. I was trying so hard. I drove around in my car to try and get him to fall asleep, and he fell asleep. And then I pulled him out of the car, and the handle on the car seat wasn't clicked in place, and I almost like dumped him out of the car seat, and he woke up. I was so mad.
Oh my
I
gosh.
was so mad. And so then I put him on my knee while we were critiquing and was trying to like bounce him and get him to fall asleep. And then I finally got him to fall asleep, and then I was gonna like pick him up and try and put him down, and then he woke back up again. Oh, I was so mad. But yeah, like sometimes it's really hard. But yeah, it was really funny because after I got off the call with you, Karlie, like he literally fell asleep 10 minutes later, and I was like, "Couldn't you have fallen asleep like 3 hours ago?"
Oh, so yeah, it didn't even bother me at all though. I'm like, I don't know how you're tuning it out, honestly. Like I would be going crazy. On the other line, it's not annoying, but like I'm like, you got some magic skills being able to tune that out and actually focus on the group and the phone call.
Sometimes it's hard. But yeah, I struggle with attention anyway because I have ADHD, but yeah, sometimes it's really hard. I don't know. I have a problem. Like it's hard for me to focus on things, but when I'm really passionate about things, I can focus on them. I like hyper focus. So I'm either like not focused or I'm hyper focused, one or the other. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, last night there were definitely times when it was difficult to focus, but I've got you get kind of you just get better at juggling it. And you just have to like be okay that it's gonna be messy sometimes. And, like, I don't know. I'm sure everyone on that critique group was like, "What is she doing?" But oh well.
No. So what is your favorite part of the writing process? I would say for sure like being able to daydream, like the imagination. Like I love like the thoughts. So like at night, usually like before I go to bed, I think about the scene I'm gonna write the next day. And so I love that like being in my head, like seeing my characters, seeing them interact, like kind of like think about like dialogue. Like I think a lot in dialogue. Like that's usually how scenes come to me is I think in dialogue and then I fill in the rest later. And so I love that part. I love the daydreaming part. That's my favorite. And I love the research too. I like to research like the locations and eras because mine takes place, in the past. And so I love all that part. And then of course the writing. Yes, gotta love the writing aspect of it too. But I'd say my most favorite part is like the storytelling and like the imagination part, being able to just daydream about it.
I love getting in the characters' heads, but I love having like something like a fun theme in the book that like I'm passionate about and like that I want to talk about. I think my favorite part though is just seeing my improvements, like seeing how much I've improved since the last year, the last 2 years. I love the feel that I'm getting better. I'm getting closer.
Yeah, that's rewarding too. And like I've had to learn to like appreciate that more because like in the past it just was never fast enough. It was never good enough. I'm like, yeah, it's better, but it's not perfect. It's got to be perfect, right? And so let go and just like, okay, yeah, it's not perfect, but they said that like my character felt real. Like that's the first time anyone said that. So like taking those like little achievements, like, oh, they said my world building was really great. The dialogue sounded natural. Like taking those small wins is so important.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah,
right.
sure.
Well, we've been talking for about a half an hour.
Should we call it good here?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for tuning in. This was fun. Hopefully, you all learned something, and it's hard to pin me down and get me to talk about this particular subject, but I'm glad that I did. I know that I need to talk about it more.
I will answer this one question. So thoughts on point of view changes in a book. Do you think 2 is okay? Absolutely. I love multiple point of views. I even love it like if there's like 3 to 5, like multiple points of view. Sometimes if it's like too much, it's hard to really get bonded to the character because you don't spend a ton of time with them. But like 2 to 3 Absolutely. I love multiple points of view. I've always wanted to write that. I think eventually I'll try, but right now one point of view is hard enough.
Yeah, I think three multiple points of view is great. I think it is harder to do, so I wouldn't. If you're just starting out, I'd recommend maybe just starting with one, and then adding to it as you get better. And I would say multiple points of view is great to reinforce theme. Like you can have your multiple characters show different aspects of that theme, and it kind of makes that theme stronger. And I would say if you are writing a character that maybe isn't likable, then having another character that is will keep people reading. And I think there are benefits to multiple points of view that way. But if you're just starting out, I would stick with just the one at least for your first draft, and try and really solidify that one character before
Yeah.
you start trying to juggle several.
But yeah, if you're experienced, then absolutely. Just obviously, like you have to spend as much, like you have to spend equal amount of time on both of them. Like they both need to be you need to know them equally as well. Like you need to dive into their backstory, dive into their what makes them tick, what do they want. So you need to know them.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you do that and you can, find motive for both of them, then yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's a lot more difficult. That's why I'm not going to try it till I don't know, third or fourth, fifth book that I do, because I
Yeah.
don't just creating one really dynamic first like lead character and then really dynamic secondary characters is hard enough. Trying to do like two main ones would be oof, really, really,
Mm-hmm.
but awesome if you can pull it off. A lot of authors do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. So,
Cool. I think that we'll wrap it up. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
well, thank you. See ya. Thanks, Karlie.
Yeah, we'll see you, bro.
See ya.